Welcome lo Vanuatu Telepost report, special report lo side lo snap election, where we taking place on number 16 January 2025. The place you make at Marco O'Brien, where you may have voice claim lo 107 all time, and you make out to one special write up lo Telepost, Terence Malapa. Terence, we will thank you lo special updates here, and we will happy to bring you updates. You will look first time lo PortVila. People place you by plan the money vote lem.
Okay, lo imi lo PortVila. Imi sabi sa PortVila na imi hat lo Vanuatu mo. Sometimes we got what people are registered voters. Everyone registered lo PortVila. So lo last turnout lo last snap election lo 2022. Imi look him say he got all total lo registered voters imi 50,151. And total votes imi 17,000 no more only vote. So all got void vote lo last snap lo 2022 imi 160. So total lo valid vote lo 2022 emi 16,840 votes. Out long 50,000 registered voters. So you look at last snap election, turnout emi poor finish. Why emi poor? I mean, you know, the people live tight of vote, or full will travel out. Mo emi snap or nakat irradiate or whatsoever. 2 years after, you go back and one last snap election. Whereby we stop all come and list na ya, whereby me call election lo 2026.
Thank you, Terence. Marco O'Brien, 2022 snap election. Do you know how many people list up election lo time?
Then I think there was 28 or something, wasn't there? Just off the top of my head, 27. We got 31 where Silas Yatton pulled out this time around, so we're down to 31. This out of that we've got 6, 7, 8 of that 27 are standing this time around. All the rest have either dropped out or passed away. So we're all jumped out, and there's a couple that have changed ships as to some have gone to rural, some have gone to home constituencies and so on and so forth. So we're seeing quite a different set of dynamics. I think we've had a bit of a change this time around. We've got 17A, 17B, which was passed, and a lot of people need to understand the ramifications of that. So if you've got an independent going forward, he's pretty powerless unless he joins a party. So at some point in time, he's going to have to declare his hand. And if you're going to vote for him, you really want him to declare his hand now. And if he's going to declare his hand, then his common sense would say that he will go where he can do the most good for his constituents. I don't know that that's going to fly. I think the electorate is pretty sick and tired of it. And the thing that I think we're going to see a change of is voter turnout. I would be very surprised if it doesn't double. I reckon it could quite easily double, which is going to change our whole dynamics out the window. If the rhetoric we've got going on social media at the moment is anything to go by, we're seeing some pretty vile comments from people that are alleged leaders. It's quite disgusting the way in which they're standing up, some of them, and the way they're conducting themselves. And we've seen the way they've operated in Parliament. They've failed us. They've done nothing for us. We've got no roads, we've got no infrastructure, we've got no schools. So the old guys rolling it out again, the young people have got nothing. You know, when we had seasonal workers go out, they started saying, no, we can't do seasonal work because we need to keep those people that are here working. That's a load of BS. We need to get as many people working as we can, and we need to see a change. So I think the electorate is starting to speak volumes about that, unless, like Terence said, they've just had a gutful and say, bugger it, I don't care anymore. But I don't think that's the case. I think that you'll find that now is the time that the people of Vanuatu are going to stand up and say, I want some change.
That's very true. We want some change, law number 16. But Terence, one point we talk about independent. Law last 2022, how many independent?
Less than 10.
Less than 10, but this time?
10. You got 10 independent.
So 10 independent. Anyway, you look UMP. How many UMP the last election?
Last election, you got 3 no UMP, 3 lo PortVila.
PortVila, yes.
3 lo PortVila, and out of 3, 2 no mi go through, and one total vote lo UMP lo PortVila itself, 3,986 votes.
But this time, how many?
This time we got 4 votes again, 4 candidates only stuff. So, bye you look at now, si Bambay, number of UMP by increase, you go 4,000 lo PortVila, and by you look at now, si Balisha win him 2 candidates again, or Balisha win 3, or Balisha win 1 more.
So, Marco O'Brien, what do you think about UMP have 4 candidates?
Well, I think you've got to look at the two major parties that were in the last legislature moving forward. Obviously, they've got a base which is old and traditional base. So I think that given 17A and 17B certainly predicate that the presidents are the people we need to look at. So we need to look at who's running each party. So we've got Ishmael Kasako at UMP, and we've got Johnny Canapo in VP. Now, we all know the reason VP has gone from 1 to 4 is because the split in the camp with Loughman and Canapo. So they've got 2 from Loughman's camp and 2 from Canapo's camp, which just to appease people. At the end of the day, they're splitting votes. I think it was a terrible mistake, but hopefully that they'll be able to do something. They had no representation in PortVila previously, but did well in other areas and other constituencies. So between UMP and VP, you look at the presidents and then look at the numbers they had in the last legislature, and as we go through it, you'll probably find that we'd probably all be reasonably in agreement that they'll pick most of those seats back up again. But whether or not they can enhance that to go the next step. But as you look at the other people that come through, independents, you talk about how many independents, we all know, and it's not talked about, but these independents are basically sleepers. They're put there so they're not splitting the vote, but just on the off chance people don't want to vote for a party, but then they've already pre-aligned back into the market.
Now, let's start with VP. Before Kennedy may been stand up, 1,000 something voters. Now we have 4 1 time, we'll say Mago Italam. How number is talk about this one?
Simple mathematics no mo. Tamo you last election. Kennedy mi stand up mi run up with the 1,174. And 1,174. By you total amount, but the Mokata 4 will stand up. By VP no kat base lo Vila also UMP will meet alam sir last election. UMP mi 3,986. So I mi kat number lo bisa. VP number problem mi stop. The 1,000 is stop. So now you put them 4. So Baba only play lo church 1.
Play lo church, yes.
You play lo community. You got community. You got church. After you play islandism. After door to door now. Or the family friend now. Boy, itok lo bisa.
Meeting about 2022, VP been split small, yeah. Got some number, you see one different man.
Yes, lo 2022, you got some councillors lo VP. Only no agree with them candidate lo kata, we for my MP. So only join a man together. Only go, only support them independent candidate lo fresh water, we emi champ starry. We emi contest pagan this time. Champ starry. So that's why emi make them downfall lo VP lo PortVila lo last snap election. From every VP councillors only go support them candidate lo fresh water, champ starry.
That's correct. So you got some big man too inside lo PortVila before you move ko Efate rural, say Moana. But why flame is inside lo PortVila? What do you think?
You basically see just a swap of votes, and he would think using her candidate, like her current status as deputy mayor, and the votes she's been getting through the wards, that maybe they're feeling confident that they can slide her through, and it's best for him to go outside and compete in what is, I would suggest, how many seats we got over, and we'll talk about them later. But we have, interesting enough, Justin Nweli's gone. So where will his votes? That's over 2,000 votes. That's significant. He polled really, really well, and I think he polled amongst the youth really well, and I think he really supported them. And we can hear some campaigning going on in the background. So we're keeping this real. We're keeping it live. So we've also seeing around about 12,000 votes that aren't there for people that contested the last election because they don't exist anymore. So how's that split going to go with the people we've got? Some of these people we've heard of, some of them we haven't. Some of them are pushing religion over politics. They don't seem to understand that we have to have a separation of powers, separation between church and state. And some people are saying we need to put a 10% tie in our GDP across the churches. And you know, the whole reason that a church exists is because of its members. And I don't think that a state should be propagating to each individual church based on its gross domestic product. I think it should be up to them to win over through their own benefits. So I really find it abhorrent that the churches are involving themselves inside of politics.
Yes, church for planting lo politics too this time at the moment. Lo PortVila illegal sem lo side lo FIPI albe analisa. This is true.
Lo cash pla albe
analisa. Dalam si support by church, support by province, community.
Lo cash pla albe analisa ba miki one example lo let former prime minister Edward Natape time futuna I dalam si ba yustanap. Ailam lo futuna lo PortVila I si ba yustanap, ba yustanap to yun mo katsemen. So community lo futuna only approach him Presbyterian Church of Vanuatu and only ask him lo by Albe analisa by me contest. So Albe I me resign. That way me resign finish. Church I me put out one public statement. He ask him lo all kita congregation lo all kita church member lo Presbyterian Church around lo PortVila. Lo by only join them all family lo futuna lo by only vote them Albe analisa. So I me one potential candidate lo by me win election na for I me got put pack up lo community lo church mo ainanism.
Former Lord Mayor of PortVila, Ulrich Sumto, last 2022 he started on different party. This time on different party.
Lo 2022 I'm Mr. RMC mo emna mi karam last seat lo PortVila and somehow I'm elected no more I'm out mi ko lo irriki I'm must have what party bla I want to go from one other government and then time go he got differences with them party I'm step out mo ko come president lo National United Party. So National United Party lo PortVila yumi sabat alam si yumi no look track lo elect lo kata lo PortVila.
That's true, yes.
Ino kat one elected member of parliament lo National United Party lo PortVila. So bambay emi interesting lem asum hem tu asum se Catholic Church istawat mem.
Okay.
Catholic Church istawat mem ka community lo Pentecost istawat mem. Pe bayi lo kamuna emi play lo strategy lo sabagam.
Okay, Mark, we have 2 minutes. Outlaw everyone in PortVila. You think so by pass? I'm giving it to you.
I reckon there's going to be the same talk come back out of UMP. I think their base is there, and I think they'll steal a little bit of Justin Nweli's base as well. It'll come back across them. I don't think that'll go across to RDP or others. I think we're probably going to see one or two. I think VP will surprise us this time around. I think people that might get wounded pretty hard will be Ralph Regan-Vanu with his behaviour on social media and with the way in which John Salong, GJP, handled the Vanuatu situation and a few others. So it just depends. We're relying on, or we're going to assume that our electorate is much more poignant and much more on point now than they have been previously. And so I think we could see some changes and might be some disappointed faces at the end of it.
Terence, you think so by pass through PortVila?
Babi sa poder mo tutok lo collect lo niya babi sa poder mo tutok lo ami talan. And tomorrow you know me. Tomorrow me lo pagot. And by me let the people let me decide. Because people want to elect them back. Some people go back and up. By me go back, if we start go back lo instability. Choice start lo kada. Because people want them see me go for change. But them 17A or 17B, whereby me implemented the next election, next legislature, we want you contest the political parties here, you stop, let me not catch them. So, but by you let them people let me decide.
You can't jump. That's the thing we need to understand is once we're elected, then they can't jump.
They can't jump anymore.
No.
Well, thank you, Marco and Terence. Emi lo PortVila. You me all voters lo PortVila. Please, you me must go vote lo number 16. Now let's move to Shefa. Not Shefa, but Efate Rural. Efate Rural, Terence lo 2022. Give me some statistics, please.
Lo 2022, you may run Efate Rural, you got 5 seats. More lo 2022, you got 23 candidates. More total lo registered voters, 46,888. But total vote, if we turn back, 19,419. Void votes, 198. Valid votes, 19,221. So one turnout lo 41.4%. Where low.
Low. Okay, you make come back election back lo rural lo Shefa. Sorry, Efate. Now Marco, you think somebody plan the money for this time?
I think we're going to see a lot of people vote again. I think we're if they don't, then the people are going to get what they deserve, isn't it? So if we go on what's happening in social media and with just the outrage of people feeling completely left out, I mean, we've had 2 years go past. What we've seen in Efate Rural is how bad that road has got. It's nearly got worse than it was before they put tar seal on it. And the services that they're getting, and if they don't stand up and they don't speak out, the only problem you've got is that Jesse out there, who's I believe has taken a lot of rolling, he should just cruise straight in, simply because in his very nature, he just gives people stuff, you know. Before he got elected even, he gave people stuff. When there was problems around it, even they weren't even voting for him. He just went and gave them tents because they had their homes bulldozed, you know. Very hard to get on. He actually does it. He doesn't talk about it, just goes out and does it. A few others don't do that.
Let me give him plenty something to plant the people before.
If they vote for him or not, he just likes to care. I think that's pretty obvious what he's done. So I think it'd be very hard for him not to get back in. I think UMP will be very hard to beat in the rural. It'll just be a matter of who we get to go inside to complement them. I think it's they've done enough that they should be able to cruise on that. That'd be my thoughts on what's happening at Efate Rural. And VP should finally get a seat there too. If they can pick up a couple in Efate.
We have some very good people lo Efate Rural. But firstly, before we go to woman, Julia King. You been stand up last election. You think sabay sabi ko easily pago no by heart because you got some very strong man only step inside lo Efate Rural.
Lo case lo Julia King, I'm unique little bit from my female or lo man only voice for that rule him. But lo some historian we mista baram say lo hom no mo ika division finish lo mele tu oli putu sam nara candidate to bali contest against him. Or some say time where you want them you can be contest. Community blue now, I mean base blue now. I'm not making number blue. I'm going to start with Kyle Pot lo nara politician. So baba hemi must play lo one good strategy lo by mi ko back lo chabe winning back. Support by every lose the base.
Now Chelsea, I'm talking about a little bit Chelsea. You agree say Chelsea by me silico through because me give before election, I'm still going to need give.
Location Chelsea, hemi play one simple mathematics no. Hemi got some chairman also. Hemi got for example lo last 2022, hemi historian lo mi walay talam also say mi got 300 chairman. Every out of 300 chairman. Or man, karam list ipitim 20, 30 ko. Maybe we record them 5. We record them 5 out of 300. So 5 times 300, 1,500 ipas.
Okay.
I mean, one of my mission, let me also say, I mean, every list per month list karamikam. I mean, karamat 5 no each one. So lo chesi, but me saw them to talk to you. I mean, got one fasim lo giving is. Give. So
also one of those giving is receiving.
Giving is receiving.
Giving is receiving. Anyway, the other one is one man named Stephen Felix. He been stand up lo PortVila 2022. And he been come number 7. But this time me one very strong candidate pro Efate. We run lo eto ni kam kasem place. Stephen Felix, you know Stephen Felix maybe one strong one. One lo itula.
So what you're saying, he'd probably roll RMC. RMC's not the flavour of the month, so he's got a red-hot chance to take on Jack Norris, I suppose.
No, but Emilitas
Party. Stephen Felix, Emilitas Party. And then one very strong candidate to Isave Roa Narset, so he's been very strong with Fred Samuel. Fred Samuel, hemi vanuko party, lo no Efate. What do you think you will
Lo, imi ka pa lo Fred Samuel,
okay, go ahead, lo Fred Samuel.
Lo last election, VP emi butuh 4 candidates, lo Efate role. 4 candidates, including Fred Samuel. And Fred Samuel emi run up. Lo emi bat number 6. Lo last election. And everyone will lose. So this time, RCC, Regional Coordinating Committee, lo Efate role, lo VP, already decide lo butuh one mo. We emi Fred Samuel.
Lo Efate Rural.
Efate Rural. So lo kambak lo talam siya lo Efate. Yung mga tol strong man lo listan na niya. Lo side lo not Efate lo not Efate. You got Fred Samuel. You become back lo Takara. You got former governor lo Reserve Bank.
Reserve Bank, yeah, that's very true. Ati.
Ala yung Mr. Buffy ko back lo Southwest, Southeast.
You got Steven.
You got Northeast. You Mr. Kat Stephen Felix. I mean, all strong caliber on them lo all face lo not Efate.
You may got Moana too, Mr. Napolo Rural, and we wish him all the best, former Prime Minister. But anyway, Marco, we have 1 minute to go. Marco, lo Efate Rural, you think so?
Stephen Felix has got a chance, I guess. Fred Samuel, VP should be getting one through this time around. I think RMC will be the big loser in this one, coming from rural. I still think that UMP will hold fast. We talk about melee, but there's enough in melee to vote 2 through, 3 through on their own. So I don't think it's going to water down a base at all. I think that she's probably done enough. And the fact that she is a woman, so therefore that adds a bit to it. I believe Jesse will get through. Whether we get the other guy through after what happened with some land reclamations and stuff, maybe not. I'm not sure how strong his voter base is. I would think that if anyone's going to tap in, they'll have to tap into Norris's RMC grouping, and I think RMC and GJP are the two that will go down. LPV are certainly Leaders Party, certainly done some good stuff. Unfortunately, with Maddai, probably hasn't performed as well as the Deputy Prime Minister we would have liked. Became a little bit more self-serving and interested in his own brand of politics that benefited himself, made a certain botch up of Air Vanuatu. And so I think that we could see a couple of changes. But I think your winner coming through Efate and through PortVila is going to be VP. I think they'll gain a couple of seats that they didn't have before, because people are knowingly thinking about 17A, 17B, a lot more aware about it, and realise that they're voting for Johnny Canapo, they're voting for the VP party, and they're trying to get stability. And the more people they get into a couple of the majors, the less instability we're going to face going forward.
Thank you, Marco. You, Terence, who thinks about pass through lo Efate role before we finish?
We think by statistically, by Mr. Vetalam, Fred Samuel from the last election, only ran for. This time only VP to one more. So, by Mr. Vetalam, but set Gloria, me no follow too much for the campaign blame or no follow Setala or comment.
Thank you, Terence and Marco. Thank you so much. My special update for 102 telepost lo staff election lo 2025 will be taking place lo number 16 January. Please you me lo Efate role ko custom for you.